Okay, Sunday, August 10th, 2025. Baby's taking a nap. You can get out and make some video. So, yeah, there's a lot of developments here going on with Ukraine. I guess we'll talk a little about Trump and Ukraine and everything else today, Alaska. So apparently Trump and Putin are going to meet in Alaska and try to settle this, and they're talking about swapping territories. And the whole media is blowing up that, you know, Ukraine has to give land away as a gift and all of this, you know, and it's unconstitutional and what have you. And again, you know, I'm not a cheerleader, I'm not a Russian collaborator, I'm just telling things as it is. Now, the key word is swap, right? So they would lose some territory and then they would get some other territory back. It was already theirs, I'm pretty sure. I think they're talking about Zaporozhye, the way I read about this, where the nuclear power plant is. And right now it's in Russian hands. So the deal is if they give up the Donbass territories, I think this is Lugansk and Donetsk, and then recognize Crimea or recognize all three of those, they would get back some other territory that's right now in the Russian hands. Now my view is this deal is fair if, the big if is, it's a durable peace. It comes with like a demilitarized zone, you know, foreign troops on the ground, you know, they get to build a proper border and, you know, hold back the Russians. And, you know, I don't know until when. A lot of people say when Putin dies, things will change. We don't know if he's just a one-off or he's like a dynasty like the family in North Korea. But the Western nations need the time as well. I mean, everyone says Russia will use this time to regroup and rebuild, but the Western nations need to increase their weapons production capacity. And the way things work in Western nations is they just can't build a factory. It just doesn't, you know, they go through all this like litigation. You know, like in Norway, they're trying to build a new factory for these NSAMs, you know, Norwegian surface-to-air missiles. And it's probably in court with the environmentalists and all these people, you know, unless they can build it on a military base or something. But I think even in Norway, still they could you know, face a lot of barriers to this, because it's democracy, right? All the sides get to have their say and everything has to be heard. And then, you know, in America, they build more Rolls-Royces every year than they build Patriot missile systems. You know, it's crazy how few of those they build. So I don't know how long it would take to get the factories back up and train the workers to make stuff like that at scale, because they definitely need to start producing these Patriots like they produce, you know, Ford F-150s. It's got to go from like a Rolls-Royce to a, you know, Ford pickup truck. You know, it's so it's yeah, it's just I don't know how to, you know, I guess a lot of people will be pissed off. You know, I get a lot of angry reactions on my videos because I'm just telling things as it is. I just want to make sure this dog isn't going to kill me. It looks like Cujo over here, you know. Looks like a mangy Saint Bernard, but I think it's fenced in there pretty good, you know. So I don't know. I used to walk back here sometimes, you know, because it's like all like wooded and quiet and everything. But I don't know if there's like a bunch of hobos living in the woods here. You find them in Ukraine just like you do in America. But you know, we can explore. What the hell? You know, you live only once, right? So yeah, I think, I don't know, Ukraine has to be open, you know, if they can get the durable peace. Now, if there's no durable peace, then, you know, this is going to go on for as long as it's going to go on. I mean, Ukraine is in the fight for their life, but they're, you know, outnumbered and ill-equipped. And then, you know, Russia's putting their whole $2 trillion economy into this conflict. So, you know, it's interesting back here. There's like a little house and stuff. It's like these old houses you see in Norway, It's like these old cabin houses you see up in northern Norway. But yeah, it'll just go on because that would be unacceptable, even in my pragmatic view of life, that, if Ukraine just has to withdraw and Putin wants Ukraine to disarm and, not be in NATO, not have any foreign alliances and everything, basically just give up and wait for the other shoe to fall. But what I think would happen in that situation is the Russians just wouldn't come in and try to take it all, because they would have guerrilla warfare, but they would put a puppet in Kiev, and then it would just be like a cancer. So we got to hope what happens in Alaska is a durable peace, is a durable peace. And I think it's worth, giving up a little bit and getting back the nuclear power plant. But I would even say it would be a good deal if they can get the durable peace. I mean, we have to think long term here. We need to put up another Berlin Wall, and the West needs to get into war mode. It is, like I said, the skill sets that people are graduating with from high school. Like when I went to school, we had shop course, heavy math, heavy science. We could do something. I used to work in a car parts factory, operate machines, and I was even learning the basics of how to be a tool and die maker. When I was in college, I was just curious, and they were showing me how these CNC machines work, how you make the program and it cuts the metal. Now everyone's skills is making an Instagram account, doing Google Analytics, posting on Facebook, making YouTube videos like I'm doing. These are the quote unquote skills of the future. But out on a battlefield, it don't mean anything. So the whole mindset has to change in the West. It has to be a Western, I don't know, Renaissance or something. I wouldn't say a Renaissance. Renaissance comes when you have peace, But we're not in a peacetime thing anymore. We have to go into a wartime Renaissance, like get our military technology. American military technology is incredibly expensive. I don't know how it got that way, because, the people working in the defense sector should be aware of the economic factors of war. But it seems like everyone is just trying to rape the system, trying to put money in their pocket, and there's very little oversight from the, people administrating these government contracts. I don't know. It should be like hyper efficient. Things should get to market fast, or get out on the battlefield fast at the cheapest possible cost. But I mean, it's like every one of these 155 millimeter shells costs like, I think, 30 grand, not $3,000, like $30,000 a piece or something. It's incredibly expensive. Even at $3,000, I would think it's just some metal, stamped metal, some gunpowder, and like a little warhead. I would think these are all common materials that could be mass produced. So all of this has to happen in the Western countries. They need time. We need to really buy some time here, because Russia's all in, right? And they're using like World War I munitions, or World War I technology, I should say, the Russians, and then they're staying close to their border, right? Their supply chain is very short. And yes, the Ukrainians are getting in there and they're bombing stuff, but it's not enough. Sorry to say, it's just they've got to scale that up. They've got to get some internal Russian people on their side who aren't happy, and create a civil war in Russia. That's the only way that this is going to turn the tide. Is they got to get Russia to have a new problem and take people off the Ukrainian border and put them somewhere else. So yeah, that's my thoughts about this Alaska thing. This meeting in Alaska. It's got to be durable peace, And everyone's like saying, "Oh, Trump is going to sell Ukraine out and everything," but I don't see Europe doing anything better. The Europeans are all moaning, but they have all these nice weapons in Europe. They have all these NATO weapons, They could close the skies. I mean, they could even do it and deny that they're doing it. You know, they could, you know, just put Ukrainian markings. You know, the Danish Air Force, the German Air Force could put Ukrainian markings on the planes and just do this covertly and close the skies in a covert way. They could, you know, they could disassemble the long-range weapons, send them to Ukraine, and then just have them reassembled in Ukraine so that they're, say, made in Ukraine and they're Ukrainian weapons, and then they can start, you know, lobbing Taurus missiles on Moscow. But Europe hasn't done anything. They don't want to pay for anything. They don't want to lead. They don't want to unite. I mean, like I said, I was in Belgium 6 months, and people are on another planet there. This whole thing about like being culturally rich, you know, having their languages and, you know, having their own, you know, their croissants and all this stuff, it's far more important to them than their own survival. There's so much hubris and craziness going on there. You know, the you know, the multiculturalism, or, you know, being culturally rich or something is going to actually kind of work against them and make them culturally extinct. I mean, we've talked about in many videos how on top of this problem with Russia and the Chinese, you know, they're having like a population crisis. I mean, their birth rates, fertility rates are just falling off a cliff, you know, and this is the bleak long-term future of Ukraine. So, you know, if we go fast forward 50 years, 100 years from now, and, you know, Europe is now all Palestinian, right? Europe is basically New Palestine. It's a caliphate. The Arabs have gotten themselves in there. And, you know, maybe some countries are better than others. Some are more like Turkey that have some engineering culture and a little bit more laid back. And others are going to be like, you know, like Belgium will probably be like some, you know, Taliban state or something, you know, where it's like strict Sharia law. But anyway, it's going to be a lot different. And Russia's still going to be Russia. And Ukraine is going to be stuck. And Eastern Europe is going to be like extinct. You know, they're having an economic boom now, but it's going to be short-lived because they just don't have the birth rate. And those people are going to get old, and then everything is going to fall off a cliff like Japan or Korea. I mean, that's what Eastern Europe is. Eastern Europe is basically Japan or Korea in the 80s. You know, right now they're flying high, but there's no children coming up to keep it going. And no immigration. People don't really immigrate to Eastern Europe because they don't give any free money. I mean, you have some immigrants like IT workers from India or whatever, but it's not enough. They need to maybe expand that, but still, I don't think it would be enough. So you know, Ukraine might, this is kind of crazy, but 100 years from now, 50 years from now, might find themselves wanting to go back and, you know, be friends with Russia and everything, so they don't have to deal with having, you know, all these Arabs and Muslims here, you know, trying to change the country. You know, I mean, Ukraine is just a Christian version of Turkey. You have, you know, Ukraine to the north, and you think about what Turkey is. Turkey is just an Islamic version of Ukraine, really. I mean, Ukraine won't, you know, they would, I don't know what they would rather do, become Turkey or go back and be friends with Russia. You know, this is, I'm talking about 50 years from now. I'd probably still be alive. I'll be 104. You know, with modern medicine, I might live 200 years. I mean, I'm pretty healthy, you know, so, you know, so, you know, just, yeah, hang on. Well, anyway, that's all I got today. We'll see you. Bye.